Wow, I don't think I even need to talk. That was so good. Well, hello, everybody, again. So, around the holiday season, a lot of us have this urge to connect and reach out to people we haven't talked to in a really long time. Anybody feeling that urge to connect with people? Yeah, right? Well, one of my exes had that urge a couple of weeks ago, and he called me, and we had a nice talk. It was really nice to hear from him. And after we hung up the phone, I started thinking about our relationship and recalling, why didn't we stay together and what was it all about? And he and I were one of those couples where we were like in two different universes when we communicated. Just the communication was just so not there. And I remember one time in particular that was kind of like the what do you call it? The nail in the coffin. We were just hanging out, and he goes, you're really dense. And I said, excuse me? He goes, you're dense. And I thought, you're calling me stupid? What is this? And he said, no, I mean, you're heavy. And I go, oh, I'm heavy, so I'm like overweight. What is this? Where's this conversation going? And so after much talk and yelling and screaming and figuring out we were in two different universes talking, he meant that I'm a very intense person. And I was a very intense person. And he liked to say to me, Dale, you need to lighten up. He was constantly telling me to lighten up because I call that period of my life where I dated him BSOM, before science of mind. Because I was really intense and I was really dark and I was looking at the world outside of me to inform me, and I didn't like what I was seeing. And this was the 1980s, right? I mean, geez, so much more has come to the table to have angst about. But I used to just really be focused on that dark stuff. And he tried to get me out of it by telling me to lighten up. And those of you out there, if you have people in your life that lean dark, saying lighten up does not do the trick. I will just tell you that. That just made it worse, right? But, looking back on it, I realized what he was saying because I didn't really have the presence of God in my focus. I had it inside of me, but I was very, very divorced from it. And so this is the time of year that we talk about light. And I thought it was perfect that he called me, and it reminded me of his constant mantra of telling me to lighten up. I thought, how perfect is that? Because we're entering into December, to the holidays, and it's all about light, finding the light in the midst of darkness. And so I thought, this is great. He's given me a wonderful story to begin my talk with, and we can start to dive into light. Because y'all probably know that the holidays around this time are kind of based on this time of the year where we're entering into that shortest day of the year where there's more dark than light. And these holidays are meant to coax that fire within, that light within, for us to see the light and celebrate the light because it is such a powerful, powerful metaphor for us. We've got the two biggies, which is Christmas, obviously, and the birth of Jesus Christ is all about the birth of light. And we've got Hanukkah, too, by the way. We'll be talking about that next week, so you want to make sure you come. But Hanukkah is all about the miracle of lights through the Hanukkah story. So this quote by Ernest Holmes really hit me in the heart, and it reminds me of something I wish I had known when I was in my dark times. He says, if one will have faith in himself, faith in his fellow man, in the universe and in God, that faith will light the place in which he finds himself. And by the light of his faith, he will be able to see all is good. And I know for me, if I read something like that and I'm in a dark place, it's kind of hard to see that, right? But Ernest Holmes is on the money. He is so on the money because when we're in a space where we're feeling really disconnected, where we're not looking at love, when we're feeling separate from everybody, then it's really hard to find the good. But to me, this is the key to it all, is faith. If we can find that faith in ourselves, in people, in the universe, and in spirit, then we're grounded in light. And it lights us up just by having that realization. And Yoda, I love Yoda. I haven't talked about Yoda. Yoda has great quotes. He says, fear is the path to the dark side. And it is true because really, there are a lot of people that talk about there only being two powers in the universe, dark and light, love and fear. And I have to see there's truth in that. Because for me, when I was in that BSOM state in my life, I was really scared because I didn't know I could actually make it in the world, seeing the strife that's out there, seeing the misery, and then having my own baggage to escort into my reality. But really, fear does lead us to darkness, because if we're afraid, then we're not feeling the presence of spirit, because this is what spirit is all about, and this is what darkness is all about. Light is about love, faith, spirit, and oneness. Darkness is about fear, despair, the absence of spirit, and separation. And you can feel the different energy when you talk about fear and despair and absence of spirit, as opposed to love, faith, spirit, and oneness. That makes me lighten up when I go there. But I want to extend my compassion to anybody who's watching online or who's into the room that feels really enveloped with darkness. Just being a comrade in that, because that used to be my life. It really did. It used to be my consciousness, I should say. And I just ask you to be open to the light that is always there inside of you, because all it takes is just a recognition for things to start to change. But I get it, too, that the darkness does have its purpose in our life. It is a place in which we get to see the shadows that have been harming us or keeping us down. And it is a place of incubation. My point is, as Dr. Tom would say, let's not build a condo there. Leonard Cohen said there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And for me, in my journey through dark to light, that crack is what saved me. And that crack was the light of my world, that I knew something was better than what I was experiencing. And I knew if I hung in long enough, that crack would widen open. And I'll tell you, what widens open that crack is gratitude. Big, big opener. What widens that crack is paying attention to what's in your world. Because what I found about darkness, it's I am backwards and inside out. I am not in the world around me. I'm consumed with the past. I'm consumed with something that my mind has created. Darkness can be seen as a misuse of our imagination, right? We can use it to imagine dark. We can use it to imagine light. So if we give ourselves a moment to imagine light, to imagine something better than what you're living in now, that's got energy behind it. And that activates the spiritual law that I spoke about in the religions. That spiritual law just answers us. It answers us when we say, I'm ready to be in alignment with something better than darkness. I am ready. And that opens the door for us to be able to jump in and let more and more light in. The Bhagavad Gita, which is a Hindu text, says, I destroy the ignorance-born darkness by the shining lamp of wisdom. And all those religions that I talked about and philosophies that I talked about earlier in our service are really all about recognizing the light. The light as it is expressed in different deities or different ways of seeing that higher wisdom and knowledge and energy that is everywhere present. They're all telling us to wake up and see the light. And Ernest Holmes talks a lot about ignorance of truth in his writings. And it's not ignorance like you're stupid or anything like that. It's just we're ignoring truth. We're not aware of it. We're not aware that there, as Ernest would say, there is a power in the universe greater than we are that is good, that we can use. That is what this is all about, is opening ourselves up to shine that light in the darkness, that light of spirit in the darkness, and let our world come to life. Because what's so cool about that is when we're in dark, like I said earlier, we're not seeing good stuff around us because we're in such a state. But when we cast that light, it's like we're able to see, oh my gosh, there's this, there's that. I didn't know that I had such a nice friend in my life. I didn't know that there was this possibility here. It just opens our eyes to see what's there, because in the dark, we're blind. And so this season teaches us to turn on the light. What's very interesting about today's service is that Alicia had come to me a few weeks ago and said she wanted to sing the song that she sang today, which is called Feed. And I heard her request, and I didn't do anything about it. And then I looked at the lyrics of it, and I realized what she is singing is really what I'm talking about today. And her song actually had the story I'm about to tell you in the song. And the story is a Native American tale called The Tale of the Two Wolves. Has anybody heard of it? It's kind of a popular, a lot of you have already heard of it. So the story goes like this. There's a grandpa talking to his little grandson and giving him the ways of the world, instilling wisdom into him. And he said, there are two forces inside of man. There are two wolves that represent these forces. And one is good. One is life-affirming, it's joy, it's love, it's compassion. And the other is dark. It's envy, it's jealousy, it's hate, it's rage. And these two wolves live inside man. And the grandson says, well, Dad, Grandpa, who wins? And the grandpa says, whichever one you feed. And this tells us, right, whichever one you feed, if you're going to feed the good wolf wins. If you're going to feed the angry wolf, the evil wolf, as they say, then that one wins. And so this whole dark light thing is choice. And I know sometimes being in the dark feels like you have absolutely no choice. I get it. I lived it. I lived it way too long. But that's not true. It isn't something that's a victim thing. It's something you can't get out of. You absolutely can by feeding the right wolf. And so I ask you to ask yourself, which wolf are you feeding? And I'm going to do holy confession today because I like to do that. I like to say it all here, and it cleanses my spirit. So I was thinking about this whole which wolf have I been feeding, and I was looking at my thinking throughout the last week, and I realized I wasn't feeding the right wolf because I was having thoughts that weren't, as we would say, of blessing and healing. And it really came to light when I was reading something in Ernest Holmes about we should have a consciousness of blessing and healing. How wonderful to bring that energy to the world. And I realized there were moments this week where I wasn't there and I was feeding the wrong wolf. And I want to tell you that nobody's perfect. And sometimes we do feed the wrong wolf. But that's why we do the mindful thing. That's why we listen to our heart. That is why we remind ourselves when we're listening to a talk to check ourselves and say, have I been feeding the good wolf or the bad wolf? Which one have I been feeding? Because I will tell you this. When we feed the good wolf, everything changes, not only inside of ourselves, but in the outer world. We change everything by changing our consciousness because we are all interconnected. We're learning so much about quantum physics right now. We talk about it all the time, that we are all connected. As the ancient shamanic traditions told us, everything's connected. What happens over here is affecting something over there. Somebody was teaching something, Dr. Laura, last week. You had a great quote. She had a great quote about something that happens here is affecting a star system somewhere else. And so it makes us a little more responsible about our thinking, doesn't it? Be a little more responsible of our thinking. And I'm not saying it as a shame thing. Please, let's take that shame thing right out. That goes with all of the religions that we are evolving into a different place with, right? It's really about taking good care of ourselves by thinking right. When I'm thinking right, I feel right, right? When I think right, I feel right. And yes, sometimes I'm not. But if I redirect and remember and do my spiritual practices, I'm going to do that course correction because that's really what it's all about, is course correction. This is a fluid world we live in. We are evolving beings. We're not just one thing. We're not just one emotion. We're constantly shifting and changing. So when we can bring the mindfulness in, we can see where we're getting off track and make the course correction and feed the right wolf. So the candle in the room. So in my hours of darkness, I felt like there was no candle in the room. There was no candle in the room. But there was. And that's true for all of us. In the Jewish tradition, there's this symbol called the eternal flame. And it's representative of the eternal flame of spirit that dwells within. And the cool thing that I used to love as a kid, I was so fixated, I gotta tell you, I was so fixated on that eternal flame. The temple that I went to, it was right above what we call the Ark. The Bema, which is the stage, is like a holy place. And you've got the Ark, which has the Torah in it, or the Bible is in it, and then you've got the eternal flame up there. And I used to just stare at that flame, because that flame meant something to me, because it could never be extinguished. And I loved that. A fire that can never be put out. And you know what? It's a symbol of our souls. Our souls can never be put out. Contrary to what we may have been told by any person or any religious figure, that fire is alive and goes wherever we are. And when we leave this place, it's going wherever our next is. And I love that idea. So even in darkness, there's a candle in the room of your consciousness. It's just a matter of turning towards it and seeing its light. As I was looking for quotes, there's an organization, I don't know what that stands for, but they're an organization about bringing good love and good energy in the world. And they say, your existence brings a light into this world like no other. Please keep that light shining. And I love when they sang Instant Karma this morning, because it reminds me of the light and for the power of us bringing our light, the command for us to bring our light into the world, because it matters. It matters so much. And when we can find that light, that light is shining everywhere, and it's affecting people in a really positive way. You might not be able to recognize what's behind these words, but this is an event that's going to be taking place here on December 20th. This is our candlelight service. And to me, it's one of the most sacred parts of the service, because we all have our candles lit, and we raise them up. I mean, look at that. I mean, it's just a picture, but how many of you have been to the candlelight? Yeah, many of you. It's an extraordinary moment of sacredness. It is a moment in which we kind of just set down all the baggage and we come as the essence of God that we all are, burning symbolically as this light that just fills up the entire room. And that's what we do in the world. When we bring our individual candles into the world, we are lighting this place up. We are bringing that spirit energy into the world, the love, the peace, the joy, the connection, the I care energy, the you matter energy, the we are one energy. That is what our light does. And Leo Tolstoy says, just as one candle lights another and can light thousands of other candles, so one heart illuminates another heart and can illuminate thousands of other hearts. This is the power we have. This is inside of all of us. Every single one of you here in the room, you online, that is who we are. That heart, that light. And this holiday season, join me in being the love and being the light and spreading it out and transcending the crowded parking lots, transcending the long lines, transcending Starbucks when you're the 20th person in line and you really need that cappuccino. Take those moments, because I know those holiday dinners, I know sometimes they can be uncomfortable. But take that moment to put your hand on your heart and tell yourself, my candle is lit, and I am burning it brightly for all to see. So let's all lighten up together this holiday season. Namaste. Thank you.